I've said it before that shorts are running out of time with NIO and NIO stock. And one of the things I'd said is I thought that if NIO could have a profitable full year in 2026 and then report that perhaps in March of 2027, that would be kind of the time frame I'd be watching for shorts to get out of the way. But then I got to thinking, we might actually see them have to get a little wary and careful and cautious even in this year of 2026, specifically in the second half of the year. If we go back to the earnings report and the transcript from March here in 2026, one of the things that William Li shared was specifically with regard to the shift or the pivot point as more BEVs, battery electric vehicles, were taking market share from the EREVs. And so here are a couple of things that he mentioned from that earnings. He says, more specifically for the BEV segment, we also see a good potential within the premium segment as the perception and awareness on the premium battery electric vehicle model has already been established. And I think the nod to that is probably the ES8, right? The penetration will also be growing, driven by that. For all vehicles priced above 300,000 RMB, we actually see an increase in penetration above 58% year over year. While for the EREV model, the penetration within that price segment actually decreased by 4%. The overall BEV penetration in the premium segment also increased from only 14% in Q4 2024 to 27% in Q4 2025. If we come down here, more specifically on the large 3-row battery electric SUVs, as well as large 5-seater battery electric SUVs, we also see a strong momentum last year. Since September last year, the large 3-row battery electric SUV model has been leading the segment across all powertrain and energy types for 5 consecutive months. In the second half of last year, the BEV sales actually increased by 350%, while for EREVs, it actually decreased by 6%. So that is the first sort of set or point that I want to share. And now if we start thinking about, and in terms of the Onvo L80 and the NIO ES9, along with the NIO ES8, and then what Qin Lihong said here, and I've highlighted something, so I want to share this, and I'll share everything so you can dig into this at your own convenience and go as deep as you want. But I want to highlight certain things here. So during this interview for the Onvo L80, Qin Lihong shared a set of data. In Q1 of last year, China's large 5-seat SUV market totaled about 97,000 units, of which battery electric vehicles accounted for only 2,200 units. That's 2%. While EREVs accounted for 46,000 units. In Q1 of this year, the total market was 93,000 units, with BEVs at 15,000 and EREVs at 35,000 units. So this is a shift that's already taking place. He then goes on to boldly predict that in Q3 of this year, BEVs will certainly surpass EREVs in this segment, with the primary driver being the Onvo L80. So there's quite a bit of confidence there, but I'm not done, because I want to think about the time frames. And what we've got right now is we're going to have earnings this week, later this week, on May 21st. And I don't know if they'll give us what kind of guidance they're going to give for Q2, but the first quarter was comprised of the months January, February, March. The second quarter is April, May, June. In June is when we may see the delivery numbers really start going up for NIO as the Onvo, and this is basically a nod to the Onvo L80 with its time frame. And then we go shift over to the NIO ES9. And if that starts at the end of May, once again, as I referenced, I think June may be the first big indicator, and that's still in the second quarter, but it sets the tone for us on what we'll see or likely see for the second half of the year, which is also cyclically when the industry and when NIO have their best sales. Now, coming back to the ES8, this is a post from CNEV Home talking about and sharing the rough math. So about the same cadence as what we've seen. And William Li, I think, recently stated that there is still a backlog on the ES8. And so I think in April, there were over 13,000 ES8s delivered. If we see anything close to that with the ES9 and or the Onvo L80, let's face it, the overall deliveries are really going to jump for NIO. And that means second half of the year in particular could become a little dangerous, a little scary for the shorts. But if we come back now and look at big picture, this is first BEVs, and then we'll look at the passenger vehicle across the full market and do this comparison just from April. NIO, and this is just the NIO brand, because if we go to the April delivery numbers for the NIO group with all three brands, just under 29.5, so 29,356, I think it was. That puts it in the top 6. And that's just for the month of April. But then if we kind of do that bigger picture, and one of the reasons I like doing this bigger picture is I want to see how much more market there still is to take. And the blue is all going to either orange or green in the future. That's your ICE or your gas sales going somewhere else. And in particular, the high end, Mercedes, Audi, BMW, you've got about, well, between 26 and 31,000, the majority of which I would guess probably about 26,000 for each are blue, representing gas or ICE sales. So you're still talking about roughly 70 to 80,000 a month in potential sales that can be taken by NIO just in that piece, that upper end piece of the market. What if Onvo is able to start taking some of those customers? I think that's where things get very interesting, and the price point being so much better. But again, kind of a nod to, and I did a video earlier talking about, the full DNA lineup of having people recognize that Firefly and Onvo they have the NIO DNA. And so even though, especially with battery as a service optionality, there is a more affordable option that one can have, the reality and the beauty is that NIO can still take a lot of market share. And so I do still think it's very early, but coming back to, this thinking on, and with respect to the shorts, I think things could get real tricky for them if they don't see this coming. And at any point in time when NIO really starts being recognized globally, I still think we're a long way from it here in the US, at least. But I don't know. I think the shorts want to continue to make money, especially off of retail traders. With respect to this, I also think that there are some who are still going to categorize NIO as a meme stock, and that could actually end up at some point creating what we saw back in 2020, perhaps another short squeeze scenario. That is not why I'm in the play. I'm not even necessarily expecting it, but I will not rule it out because this company is doing things that no other company has done. I believe it's still the only company that's listed in the 3 exchanges where it is listed, and we may end up with a 4th listing once they become profitable. If they can hit that full year profitability and then report in March, I think that's probably my conservative view on when the shorts will be running out of time for shorting this or keeping it from really moving up aggressively. But the simplest indicator in the short term with respect to stock price, for me at least, remains the trade volume. And with only a couple of days so far in this year of 2026 with 100 million share trade volume, the sentiment just isn't where it needs to be for us to see that aggressive move up, I don't think, at least not yet. But I'm curious to hear from you now that you've seen some of what I'm thinking and sharing with respect to this, and especially if the numbers really start moving up aggressively on the delivery side for NIO, perhaps even starting in June, but certainly in the second half of the year. What do you think? Are shorts going to get out of the way? Are they going to, for whatever reason, for that or for any other reason? I'm just curious to hear from other people on this. So anyway, let me get this thing up and out. Have a great day or night whenever you see it. I'll see y'all again very soon.